This happened in 2021, so still in the midst of COVID. I totally forgot about this happening until I was going through the subreddit and found a similar story. 2 years ago, during COVID, a group of my friends and I wanted to all live with each other while we were doing remote learning at university. We go to a very popular school in California. As a group of girls living together during COVID, we spent most nights watching movies, drinking wine, and just hanging out. To give some context to the layout of our house, which I think is important to know, we lived in a massive house that was divided into 3 different apartments. We chose our apartment specifically because it was at the very back of the house, which made us all feel safer since we wouldn't have the normal riff-raff of being right on the street, where anyone could easily see or decide to do anything sketchy. In terms of inside, we have 4 bedrooms upstairs and 1 bedroom right next to the open concept kitchen/living room. The ground floor bedroom faces our tiny parking lot and a tiny garden, while our kitchen and living room face a little sidewalk alleyway that runs along the side of the house and leads to our front door. So it was a pretty big apartment. Rooms were small, but the communal kitchen and living room are a great hangout spot. Some foreshadowing, but since we got the apartment in the middle of COVID-19, we hadn't furnished it properly, and did not have any curtains or blinds. The only thing that separates the window from the outside is a pretty flimsy bug screen. In the weeks leading up to the incident, my friend, who was the one living in the bedroom on the first floor, was complaining to the other 4 of us that if we wanted to bring anyone over, we needed to be at the door to grab them so that they don't jingle and try the locked door every time. Apparently, she would always hear footsteps right outside her window, which faced our little parking lot at the back of the house, and hear someone try to open the front door or try to open a window. Looking back on it now, I don't really understand how we weren't as freaked out when she told us this. I think we just had such a false sense of security since we had so many people in the house. We lived in the very back of the house, and we did have boys coming in and out of our house at night. So I guess it just wasn't unusual to hear footsteps. Or at least we just kept blaming each other's hookups for not following the rules of staying outside until we opened the door for them. Anyways, my friend's complaints died down and we all kind of forgot about any issue that had happened. We constantly got into fights in the house just because we were all cooped up inside all the time. So things that are said really just come and go. This was until the day that the incident happened, and it was honestly the scariest thing that has probably ever happened to me. All 5 of us, plus 2 boyfriends, were all sitting in the living room for a Harry Potter movie marathon. We have 3 couches that are placed in a U-shaped configuration, and a tiny TV we were able to buy for $150. It was a tight squeeze for all of us, but it felt so safe being around so many people, especially 2 huge guys. For some more pretext for our marathon, we all thought it would be kind of cute to make Harry Potter themed treats. We made cupcakes and filled them with different colours for all the houses. One of my other friends made a sparkly cocktail, and we were just kind of having fun with it. We all had our lights turned off because, as you know, the Harry Potter films are filmed with a lot of darkness, and with such a rubbish TV, it was genuinely hard to see what was going on at some points. At this point, we were really enjoying the film, until one of my friends said to pause the TV. She said that she has been hearing some crunches and footsteps for the past 30 minutes. This was my bad entirely, but I told her to stop scaring all of us because we have other 2 apartments in the house who occasionally walk by our front door after they have parked. So it wasn't anything to be scared about. We continue watching the movie, and suddenly we hear giggling. It was a short burst, and then dead silent. We were all dead silent. It was almost like we couldn't believe we heard something so close by. We turned off the TV at this point because it was just really unnerving. And then, there it was again. Whoever it was literally right outside of our door, giggling. It didn't sound like a child's giggle. It was more like someone imitating a child's giggle, which really freaked all of us out. We went to my bedroom window, which was above the front door, so that we could see if anyone was outside. As expected, no one was outside. No one was in the alleyway. So the boys decided that they would just check the outside of our house and the parking lot and see if they could find anything. I think they were spooked too, but didn't want to admit it. The boys ended up coming back, and they said they couldn't find anything weird nor unusual, and it was probably just our next door neighbours because they were throwing a little kickback. So we probably just heard some weird echo. Maybe it's the false sense of security, but we were pretty satisfied with that answer. If the boys weren't even that freaked out, why would we be? So we decided to turn the TV back on, make some more popcorn, and just chill. Once again, maybe it's just stupidity, or feeling like nobody could hurt us with such a big group, but we opened one of the kitchen windows for some air after one of my friends burnt the popcorn. The kitchen window we opened was on the very far end of the kitchen, and was the furthest window away from us, so it felt better knowing that even if something were to happen, at least we had some distance. And then, as it happened previously, we heard another giggle. This one sounded almost strangled, almost like it was really forced out. We looked towards the open window and see nothing. One of the boys decided to shout, "Shut the hell up," for some comic relief, I guess. I think it made us feel better to think it was just the house next door party. We unpaused the movie, and not even seconds after unpausing, we hear another giggle, and this time, when we look over, we see some guy's face pressed against the bug screen, while he continues to open and close his mouth as if he were trying to chomp down on the screen. His eyes were wide open and just staring at all of us as he keeps chomping. It was chaos. Literally, survival instincts went straight out of the window for some of us, because while the boys ran to the window and tried to shut it lock, everyone else was screaming or running upstairs or locking themselves into bedrooms. This is the part I cannot recount since I ran upstairs, but according to the boys, after they were able to shut the window and grab one of the kitchen knives, the guy just continued to press his face against the window, making the same chomping motion while not blinking, and he stayed like that until suddenly whipped his head back and literally disappeared into the darkness. We ended up calling the police to report this guy, but they kind of point blank said they wouldn't really do anything, unless we got hurt, but that they would definitely file a report about it for any future issues that could be called in. But that night, we all decided to buy blinds for the downstairs, and we called some of our dads to help us install proper locks on the front door and all of the bottom floor windows. So I guess all in all, nothing bad happened. There are a lot of people who overdose and do heavy drugs around campus, so it was most likely a result of someone who took too much of something. But it was definitely scary since we didn't actually know if his intentions were to come inside. She was drenched from the rain, cold and shivering, as she edged towards my counter. She appeared to be about 10 or 12. Her right hand grasped a slip of paper, which immediately slipped out when she collapsed onto the floor. My co-worker Jan and I rushed to her aid, wrapping her with our jackets and putting her in front of the heating system. Jan and I were the only ones on shift, so we did our best to find any spare clothes and blankets for the girl. We also bandaged up her bruises from a first aid kit and notified the other officers from another station. A few minutes later, we were settled down and I handed the girl a cup of warm tea. "Are you alright, kid?" I gently asked. "What happened?" She remained silent. Her eyes looked like she'd been crying the entire way there, and her gaze was fixed upon the steam rising from the cup. "You're safe now, okay?" Jan intervened, putting her hand on the kid's shoulder. "Everything is going to be fine. What's your name?" I wasn't the best with kids, to be honest. I was glad Jan was with me to help sort this out. "Kay," the girl finally answered. "Thank you, Kay," Jan replied. "Now I need you to tell us how you got hurt and what exactly happened." The girl paused. She looked at Jan, and without saying anything, handed her the piece of paper. Kay then started softly crying. Jan passed the folded paper to me and consoled the girl. I noticed that it was covered in dried blood as I opened it up. I started to read over it and realized that it was a handwritten letter. Letter addressed to Kay. "Dear Kay, I'm sorry for misspelling your name. I can only hear your voice from the basement, and the dim light down here does not help. I managed to pick up your name from the conversations I had overheard. You don't know me, but I know you. Ever since you met him, ever since he started teaching me those piano lessons. You play beautifully, and you're a fast learner. It was nice to hear your music, a ray of light in my hopeless predicament. I soon found myself eagerly waiting for those Wednesdays to come around, just to hear your voice during the lessons. But I knew deep down you weren't safe with him. He had plans for you. Evil plans I can't even begin to describe. He acts nice, but it's just a sinister act for the real monster inside him. He feeds me scraps through a broken drainage pipe attached to the cemented wall, but he only sends food when he feels like it. I've degraded to only skin and bones. I don't know how long I have left to live. There's a shower head attached next to the dim light bulb, and water only comes out at certain intervals. It's either scorching hot or freezing cold, but it's my only source of hydration. I have grown filthy in this unhygienic cage, but my only source of comfort is this paper and pencil. I have managed to grasp onto sanity through writing short stories and creating drawings, all of them about you. I knew from the bottom of my heart that I had to save you, no matter the cost. I could not let him manipulate you as he did to me. No one should have to go through this hell. So I planned each day. I realized that if my weak body tries to shout a warning, he might attack you before you can escape. And then I thought of a different way. There is a weak spot in the wood on the ceiling from the water leaking. I've managed to chip through it bit by bit with my pencil during your practices. Careful to not be too loud. Your warm music kept me going, and because of that, I pushed myself to work harder despite the exhaustion that set in every time. But I didn't give up. I never stopped. The hole I've created leads up to the first floor guest room, right under the bed. He'll never know about it until I've called through. I'm going to bring this letter to you when he takes a break in the middle of the lesson to use the bathroom. I know he always does. You might scream, but I will tell you to run, to never look back, to never stop. It's been a while since I've seen the outside sun, but I remember the woods that surrounded this area. There are going to be thorns, rocks, and a sharp fence to get past. Though I am sure you will persevere and keep running. Just don't pay attention to the pain, for after the hurt, there will be freedom. Find the police. Tell them about this monster. Tell them to search for this cruel place. Most importantly, do this when you are safe. I believe in you. Anyway, tomorrow is the big day. I better stop here. I don't want him to find out what I've been up to. I wish I got to know you more, Kay. I think we would have been great friends. Sincerely, from my heart. Thank you for being the light in my darkness. I wiped a tear away from my eye before setting the letter down. I slowly looked up at Kay. Can you describe the place? Minutes later, Jan and I were on our way to the location accompanied by several other sirens. We left Kay with the other officers at the station after her family had been contacted. When we arrived at the house, it was cold and abandoned. Our torches illuminated tire tracks that dug into the dirt, leading away from the structure. We ascended the porch steps and struck down the door. After making sure the hallway that led to the entrance was clear, I walked in first. I immediately pointed my light into the living room where the piano sat. I noticed the dark red blotches covered some of the white keys. I proceeded forward cautiously until the glow of my torch stumbled upon two bare feet. I stopped dead in my tracks and fell to my knees, fists clenched. Lying motionlessly there was a frail, young boy. My girlfriend moved out 3 weeks ago. My cat, Rook, was really close to her, and now that she's gone, I can tell he's a bit lonely, especially when I'm at work. I came home a few times to my curtains ripped up, or all the toilet paper in shreds. The last straw was when I came home after working late to find he had clawed a hole the size of a dinner plate into the side of the sofa. I decided I had to do something. I tried different toys, even catnip, but nothing worked. One night, while browsing Amazon, I saw a pet camera. It's a tiny camera that records your pet on a live feed so you can monitor their behavior while you're away. It even has an audio function so you can talk to them. Sounded silly, but hey, I love my furry dude, so I bought it. I got overnight shipping and installed it immediately. I decided to set it up in my bedroom, as that was where Rook dwelled the most. My first day at work, I think I checked the camera 30 times. When I spoke into the microphone, Rook seemed to be happier, and I noticed there was no destruction around the house either. By day 4, I figured I'd solved the problem with Rook. That leads me to right now. About 30 minutes ago when I climbed into bed with Rook, ready to close my eyes, when my phone buzzed. A notification from Petcam. I almost ignored it, sure I had just triggered the thing, but I opened it anyway. What I saw made my grip tighten on the phone. Instead of a video of myself in bed, I saw a man, tall, gangly with pale skin and large eyes. He was moving into my room with exaggerated steps, like a sneaking cartoon character. He got right up to the lens, so close I could almost smell his rotten breath, and he smiled. I immediately paused the video, terrified. I looked at the spot where the man should have been standing, but there was no one there. I went onto Amazon and found the Petcam. I read the reviews, hoping for some weird glitch. It had to be a joke, right? The first dozen reviews were pretty standard, but it was the last that caused me to bolt upright. The customer had complained that the camera was on a time delay, sometimes as much as 15 minutes. I went back to the video and pressed play with a shaky finger. I watched in horror as the man slithered under my bed, giving the camera a wink before disappearing into the darkness. Then I saw myself enter the room and climb in bed before the video ended. Now I'm sitting in my bed, knowing he's under it. I could call the police, but I doubt I'd have time. So please, do yourselves a favour and read the reviews.